You have finally found something that helps. Your child is more verbal, more connected, more themselves on leucovorin or high-dose folinic acid. And now you're anxious for two very different reasons. The first anxiety I hear the most is, it's working. Why on earth would we ever stop this? The second is almost the opposite. What if my child is one of those rare kids who needs this long term? If that's the case, are there hidden side effects we're not seeing yet? Today, we're going to talk about that second fear. I'm Dr. David Danish. I'm a double board certified psychiatrist in child, adolescent, and adult psychiatry, and my team treats cerebral folate deficiency in patients across more than 40 states. We built a dedicated leucovorin program for this, and I'll tell you how to access that at the end. There's also a free resource that lists everything we're going to discuss today, so don't worry about taking notes on this somewhat dry but important topic. And I'll put that link in the description. Now, let me say this clearly up front. My hope is to avoid long-term leucovorin whenever possible. We simply do not have decades of research on high-dose folinic acid in the autism population. We do have decades of research on high-dose folinic acid in those who have cancer, though. We have good short to medium-term data on the autistic population, and we have safety experience from other fields, but we don't have a 20-year crystal clear roadmap for people with autism. So my philosophy is use it when it's clearly helping. Use it as safely and deliberately as possible, and always be looking for chances to lower, pause, and stop. Most of my patients are done at 15 weeks. However, there are some rare situations where keeping a patient on leucovorin longer than that traditional treatment window is actually the safer, more rational choice. And that, of course, is where parents get worried about what those long-term side effects might be, and that's what I'm going to walk through right now. First, quick recap of the biology beyond this. Many patients with autism have folate receptor autoantibodies. Think of these as little blockers sitting on the front door that normally would allow folate from the blood into the brain. When that door is blocked by this antibody, the brain may not get enough of this crucial fuel for neuronal development and everyday neuronal activity. Leucovorin, or high-dose folinic acid, is a reduced form of folate that uses a side door to get into the brain, bypassing those block receptors. For some patients, it's less like a medication and more like a workaround to a traffic jam. Now, what are the situations where I become more open to longer-term treatment with leucovorin? One rare scenario that I have seen involves the folate binding protein. In some kids, the receptors that should be sitting on the blood-brain barrier are instead also floating around in the bloodstream, grabbing folate out and diminishing the folate that can get into the brain. So instead of helping the folate get into the brain, they're just randomly tying it up in the blood circulation. In a case like that, the brain may be chronically underfueled or be in a cerebral folate deficiency, and leucovorin can become more of an ongoing support rather than a short one-time intervention for 12 to 15 weeks. A second rare situation is when a child continues to develop antibodies to those folate receptors even after removing the main trigger, which is dairy. They've done the dietary changes, they've been strict about it, but they still have these antibodies. These are situations where there must be some condition that we don't understand, or in some cases, they're getting dairy proteins in ways that they don't really know, whether it's accidental or they don't see, because sometimes it might be casein, which doesn't say dairy, that's an ingredient. So we don't know why, but there are some cases of people who do well with leucovorin, and then once it's stopped, some weeks and months later, once that leucovorin storage is done and used up in their brain, they start to regress. And those are the cases where we might have to do longer-term treatment. For those cases where they have that regression after initially having made gains on leucovorin, then I'm definitely going to want to do a frat test. A lot of my patients do not do a frat test before starting leucovorin, and there's a lot of good reasons to not do that necessarily. But if there's someone who did well on leucovorin and then show a regression weeks to months after stopping leucovorin, that's when we are going to do that frat test for sure. And we're also going to look at some other laboratory studies. So at this point, my typical monitoring plan for longer-term use includes the following studies: homocysteine levels, serum B12, folate levels in the serum, and a complete blood count. We'll usually check these every 4 to 6 months ongoing if someone is going to stay on leucovorin. If homocysteine is high, something in the system is clogged. If B12 is low or even in the not great range of normal, we will definitely support it. And in fact, in all of my cases on leucovorin, I have them on standing supplement of B12. Number 3, synthetic folic acid overload. If your child is in high-dose folinic acid, I want to make sure it's not too high in their blood because they're also getting folic acid from breads, cereals. Folic acid comes in a lot of our foods. It's put in there to fortify those foods so people get folic acid through their diet. So in the end, is long-term leucovorin safe? My honest answer is we don't have perfect long-term data in autism yet, but we do have longer-term data in adults who've been using high-dose folinic acid to treat the negative side effects of certain types of chemotherapy. And so these are adults who have cancer going through chemo on high-dose folinic acid, often for longer than what we're using in our patients, and not having any negative sequelae. In other words, even though they're at risk of cancer, it's not looking like taking this folinic acid, at least for the times that they're taking it, is increasing that risk. That's something I would worry about in the long, long run, but it's something that we're gonna have to get more data on. So if you remember one thing from this video, let it be this. Leucovorin should never quietly drift into a forever medication for no reason. If you or your child needs it longer term, if you're one of the rare people who do, it should be a clearly understood reason why with a clear monitoring plan. And if you want a simple checklist of all of these labs that I mentioned, as well as the FRAT test question and the red flags I look for, that's all laid out in a MindVault guide that I'll put the link in the description. And if you want a medical team to walk you through this, to manage dosing, labs, and decisions about when to stop or continue, we've expanded our Leucovorin program to over 40 states, and that link is also in the notes. I'll see you in the next video.